Tianzi, from Rwanda, is in his 6th year in China and has spent his PhD studying communication. He is currently a media worker. Africa, a continent once deeply influenced by Western colonization, is now on the rise. How do people in Africa view China now?
So before I came to China, I was working as the official Gazette editor in the office of the Prime Minister of Rwanda. Yeah, like everybody else in the world, I was, aware of the country China because we used to use tools, different tools at home, the office, and school, which are from China, which are made from China. And apart from that, before I came to China, I knew and I had a lot of friends who were studying in China and others who were doing business in China. But actually I knew pretty much about China through reading, through the lessons we had back in school. I will be honest, most of the people in Africa, they have known a lot of things about China, but actually not really the real information about China through the Western movies. So most of the people used to think that here in China people are always performing martial arts, that everybody can fight and win, that there are some rumors that were told about China.
The Communication University of China was Tianzi's first stop in China, where he started his exploration of Chinese culture and gradually began to understand China.
Actually, the main situation that made me come here in China was an opportunity that emerged from the cooperation between the government of China and the government of Rwanda, where I was one of the eligible people who had to attend a master's program. Why did I accept to come to China? I had done my own research and I had found out that actually the education system here is much more advanced compared to the education system we have back at home. This country has a lot of experience, opportunities, and many other good things to offer.
During his study, he participated in various practical activities of schools and social organizations and appreciated the picture of China. He felt the breath of China not only in books but also on the road.
I have attended a lot of activities. Most of them were organized by the school and others were organized by the foreign community of people living here in China or just in Beijing. I would mention that I have been a fellow of a group called GYLD. It's called Global Young Leaders Dialogue. We have had a very good and unique opportunity to visit various parts of China. The group in which I was has visited the province of Jiangxi. It's Jiangxi, it's somewhere in the south, I think. It's almost like the place from where the struggle of liberation of China back in years. It's from there that it all started. So we have learned a lot of things in that trip. And after that trip, we wrote a letter to the president of China, and then he responded to us, and he gave us some insightful advices, and we think that it's something that is unique that not everybody has ever happened to have.
After his PhD, Tianzi successfully found a job in a magazine. From then on, he has took on the responsibility of making China understood by the world.
Actually, my main responsibilities at China Africa magazine consist of making sure that we have accurate articles that talk about China and Africa, because we try, in our ability, we try to show Africa to Chinese people and China to African people.
Tianzi has been following the hot topic of China's construction aid to Africa in recent years, which has been portrayed by some Western media as a debt trap. In this regard, he specially wrote a column to tell the world how China is helping Africa rather than trapping it.
Actually, the way I have described the so-called debt trap to African countries by China is that there is a difference between a debt of consumption and a debt of production. The debts of consumption are mostly those debts that go to Africa with the purpose to improve democracy, with the purpose to actually spread some information. Those are the kinds of the debts that most of African countries get from the West. But the debts now that African countries get from China, they intend to help Africa to produce. And a country, a continent, or just a person who doesn't produce, who doesn't generate things that he can sell or she can sell to the outside, that person is not developing. So every single debt that I have come across while analyzing the data that I had collected showed that most of those debts, they have helped to build infrastructure, to build roads, railways, and some other important, structures that help Africa to develop, to export, to process what they produce, respectively, each country depending on what they have as resources. So, for me, on my understanding, when writing that article, I have seen that it's only propaganda from the mostly the Western media or the Western politicians in their aim to counter the influence of China in the world and mainly in Africa. And I will add that there is a recent research that was carried out by a UK research firm that showed actually that the debts, the total external debt of Africa, the biggest share is not held by the Chinese and Chinese lenders. It's actually the biggest share is held by the Western private lenders.
From understanding China to letting the world understand China, Tianzi said this road has just begun. There will be a second 6 years, a third 6 years, more 6 years.
If my efforts bring together China and Africa and create more opportunities as it brings development to my country, then it's worth it.